The consequence of Brexit and rising prices have divided the country even more. And for the first time, the nationalist Sinn Féin party is ahead in the polls. The consequences of a victory would be far reaching, so to speak. The quarrelling parties in Northern Ireland can at least agree on one thing. The upcoming election is the most important in a whole generation, says Michelle O'Neill, for example, deputy leader of the Irish nationalist party Sinn Féin, at the start of the campaign in the Hotel Europa in Belfast. Her main opponent sees it the same way. The most important election in a generation, urges Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, leader of the Conservative Democratic Unionist Party, a DUP, to his listeners at one of the small protests against the Northern Ireland Protocol on Brexit. The parliamentary elections on May 5th, on Thursday, are likely to bring a turning point. According to polls, Sinn Féin is the strongest party in Parliament, the Stormont, for the first time with 26%. John Tong, politics professor and Ireland expert at the University of Liverpool, speaks of a seismic event. That means an earthquake in Northern Ireland politics. Sinn Féin leader O'Neill, who wants to end the split between Northern Ireland and Ireland, could become the next First Minister there. Unionists had dominated politics in Belfast and the six counties for the past 100 years. Now the DUP is well behind. The latest poll commissioned by the Belfast Telegraph puts them at just 20%. The fact that Sinn Féin could nominate the head of government scares unionists, says Tong. It's highly symbolic that the party that wants to abolish Northern Ireland is ahead for the first time, he says. Almost exactly a quarter of a century after the 1998 Good Friday Agreement that ended the 30-year bloody conflict between the nationalist IRA and unionist paramilitaries that left over 3,000 dead. The climate between the parties is currently once again poisoned. 3 months ago, the DUP First Minister resigned in the dispute over the protocol. Since then, the all-party government in Stormont Castle, with the main Protestant and Catholic parties, has once again been paralyzed. For example, no budget can be approved right now. There is now a lack of money for important spending programs and much more. Barely a week before the May 5th election, representatives of the five main parties were sitting in the Great Hall of Queen's University in South Belfast, which was founded in 1845. The Tudor-style high-ceiling room set a beautiful backdrop with oil paintings of professors on the walls and a red-lit fireplace behind them. A BBC presenter interviewed the candidates. For DUP boss Geoffrey Donaldson, the protocol is the main issue. The Unionists complain that it has been creating a customs border in the Irish Sea since 2021, impeding imports and separating Northern Ireland from Great Britain. Northern Ireland buys 4 times as much goods from Britain as from the rest of the world. We can only have a strong economy if we have access to our largest market, which is the UK, stresses Donaldson. His face is very serious and he rarely laughs, and he says, "The prices for food in the supermarkets are rising because of the expensive customs border." And Sinn Féin Finance Minister Conor Murphy, on the other hand, advocates a pragmatic solution. He does not want to abolish the protocol agreed with the EU in 2019. Its main goal is to avoid a land customs border across Ireland after Brexit. Northern Ireland effectively remains in the EU internal market and can send everything they want to the rest of the UK without any checks, by the way. The economy is divided. Stephen Kelly, head of the Industry Association Manufacturing NI, calls for the EU to move. 2021 has been a very difficult one for our businesses. Supply chains from the UK have been severely disrupted. About a fifth of the suppliers refuse to continue doing business with Northern Ireland, he says. Small companies in particular shy away from the customs border, but he's not talking about the plus business they made in the other direction. In the meantime, the situation has relaxed somewhat, but importers are still groaning. Brussels has announced concessions, but from the point of view of the Northern Irish economy, they are not enough, or not the economy, more the DUP part of them. Customs checks cost companies over £120 million, manufacturing NI has calculated, although the UK government has only superficially checked so far. They have repeatedly postponed the introduction of comprehensive goods checks, much to the annoyance of the EU Commission. At least London has now backed down from threatening to trigger the so-called nuclear option, Article 16, and unilaterally suspending the protocol, which would have provoked a trade war with the EU. Trade flows are changing as a result of the Brexit protocol. Northern Ireland's imports from the south rose last year by 54% to almost 4 billion euros, while exports even grew by two-thirds to 4 billion euros. Some business representatives see medium-term opportunities through the protocol, which guarantees free trade access to the EU. From Sinn Féin's point of view, this has the advantage that Northern Ireland will become more economically intertwined with the south. The goal of political unification, the dream of the nationalists, is getting closer. At Easter, Sinn Féin supporters marched in their thousands through Belfast and Derry and other locations in Northern Ireland. The traditional Belfast Easter parade went to Milltown Cemetery. Buried there are IRA activists who died during a hunger strike in prison in 1981. Sinn Féin, along the political arm of the IRA, speaks of our patriots, although murderous terrorists are also buried there. There is still a grey area of unexplained connections today. In the Sinn Féin party office shop on Falls Road, they sell books, wooden harps and t-shirts, as well as pictures of hooded submachine gunners. Sinn Féin party leader Mary Lou MacDonald had travelled from Dublin for Easter and stood smiling next to two Irish wolfhounds and a man in a period uniform. On a street, women in green tunics were amusing themselves with old rifles. Drummers, pipers and flute players accompanied the march, which commemorates the 1916 Easter Rising, when Irish Republican fighters in Dublin rebelled against the British. When MacDonald and O'Neill offered the Unionists to build the new Ireland together, the Ulster Unionist Party gave a harsh echo. Sinn Féin should first clearly distance themselves from IRA terrorists, civilians, women that kill civilians, and with them women and children. For many voters, however, these are not the main concerns. Rising living and energy costs, overburdened hospitals, and medical practices are the burning social issues. Almost 60% of citizens see rising prices in health as the most important issues. Northern Ireland suffers from the longest patient waiting list for the NHS, and inflation, which has risen to 7% in the UK, is hitting the poorer part of Northern Ireland, home to just under 2 million people, particularly hard. Unfortunately, Northern Ireland has suffered the greatest relative loss in disposable income of any regions, says Stuart Anderson of the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce. He points to a calculation by economists for the supermarket chain Asda, according to which the remaining income, after deducting all regular costs, fell by 13% in real terms in the winter quarter. Poor citizens hardly know how to pay their bills anymore. Heating or eating was the bitter alternative for some. Now all parties are calling for more state aid. Sinn Féin is promising every household a £230 grant to help cushion skyrocketing energy bills. This aid package should cost the state coffers almost £180 million. There should be an additional 100 million for welfare recipients as well as 70 million for agriculture, which still plays a very important role in Northern Ireland. Belfast was once a major industrial city of the British Empire. In the 19th century, the linen industry brought them wealth. You can see that at the impressive town hall made of white limestone and Italian marble, which is now a tourist magnet with its columns and the large dome. Later, the shipbuilding industry was a large employer. The Belfast shipyard Harland and Wolff, which once built the Titanic, employed up to 35,000 workers at the height of World War II. At the port, the yellow H&W cranes still tower over 100 meters into the sky. They are iconic Belfast landmarks. Since the bankruptcy of Harland and Wolff, the shipyard area has looked like a ghost site. Today, Belfast lives mainly from service industries, public institutions and tourists. 30 years of conflict in Northern Ireland still leave scars, not only economically, because during this time hardly any investors dared to enter the troubled province. To this day, high metal bars and fences separate warring neighborhoods in West Belfast. The gates are locked at night. Fear and distrust remain, at least in parts of society. Colonel Henry is the founder of Fibrous, a fast-growing startup offering broadband internet and currently laying £500 million of fiber optic cable. Henry promotes the region. Invest in Northern Ireland, it's not as crazy as it sounds, says the Fibrous boss who sponsored the panel at the Queen's University. The pharmaceutical group Allmec recently announced the creation of 1,000 new jobs. The company AMP, Ardor Metal Packaging, it's Irish, so my problem again, which makes beverage cans, wants to invest $200 million in a new plant near Belfast. These are success stories that give hope. A big problem, however, is the brain drain. Talented and well-trained young people are moving away. Northern Ireland is losing young people. Many are going to universities in the UK, says Ian Greer, president of Queen's University, regretfully. More than a quarter of Northern Ireland students go, many to Liverpool or Scotland. Less than a third come back later, he says. The shortage of skilled workers is one of the most pressing concerns for companies, says Stuart Anderson from the Chamber of Commerce. Even more disputes between the parties will not make the country any more attractive. And so I'm really looking forward to the results from Thursday. It's really an exciting time. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.